Good morning, friends. Happy Saturday. Finally got to record on Saturday again because I haven't been traveling, which is nice and restful after a summer of busy and being gone. We're finally kind of winding it down, which is great. Still have a full kitchen remodel going on. So there's almost no place left in the house without some sort of box or crap in it. But it is what it is. We're excited to have it done. Um, anyway, it's been a nice relaxing week back to this sort of daily routine, which is what I thrive on. And honestly, what if you're trying to be fit or reach goals of any kind, really, routine is like the magic bullet for that. It is just what you need to have things decided up front before you start your day, because, or your week, or your month, or your year. It sure is easy to get sidetracked. Life always lives, and it really has. And I mentioned last week in the recording that I had a tentatively new diagnosis of hypothyroidism, which I 100% did not see coming. And here it is. But the good news is it's finalized, got it taken care of. Man, shout out to Function Health. Their blood tests are what flagged it for me. And you can do them, on your own. I think you can even use HSA for them. And they're just eye-opening. If you're doing anything and putting any kind of demands on your body, or you have questions just about your overall well-being, or if you're following a specific diet, I would recommend them to anyone, but especially if you've got some situation that may impact your health that you're not aware of. That you put the impacts you might not be aware of. Hopefully you're aware of things that are impacting your health. Highly recommend them. Anyway, I did my test for the third time in July, and I was just wild. Hyperthyroidism came up, and so I went immediately to the doctor to get a second look at those, and had a fantastic physician. It was not my PCP, but I just wanted to get in, and she was great and was like, yeah, this is undeniable. And in a way, it's relieving because I have had signs and symptoms that I didn't realize were all together included in something like hypothyroidism. And in fact, no one ever even mentioned it to me as a possibility for what I was experiencing. Some of that I chalk up to having visited male physicians, which I really try to avoid because I feel like females understand the female body and also aren't dismissive. And I feel that I had interacted with a few dismissive male physicians, which still happens. It feels like it's back in the day when, every woman has hysteria if something's wrong. But anyway, at any rate, no one ever suggested to me that it could be this hypothyroidism, which was really just sort of encompassed all of these things I was feeling. And so I'm excited. I'm not excited to be on medication, but man, this morning was the first morning I took it. And I know it takes a while to kick in and to level out your hormones, but I'm excited for the impact of that, because this has been something that's been missing for a while in my body. And because of the demands I place on my body, I'm very hopeful that it responds and reacts and does what I need it to do. So that's the good news out of the bad news. You always got to find the silver lining. I wouldn't have known about this if I hadn't taken the test. I would have just thought this is what happens when you're 50. I don't know. I've never been 50. I don't know what that feels like. And, you hear out and about in the world that, you're supposed to feel sluggish or tired, or, you don't have as much of an ability to do physical things, or you have brain fog because you're, perimenopausal, or whatever all of the reasons are. And maybe that's not true. And one of my goals is to challenge that. What, 50, 51, 52, 60, 70, what is that supposed to look like? I think we're fed a bunch of lies about that. I don't think it has to look like we see it. I don't think we need to be stressing over turning 50 or 60 or 70 or whatever. We get to decide what that looks like. for us. And rather than embracing, what we think is supposed to happen, like, oh, you're just, you're supposed to not feel well, you're supposed to be on medication, you're supposed to whatever. No, you can do whatever you want with it. And I understand that some of us end up with limitations that we weren't expecting, and we didn't do anything to bring those on either. And that's life, and we figure out how to navigate those and attempt to, make the most of them, and move forward. But for the most part, I think we can make this second half amazing and wonderful, and that's largely dependent on those little teeny choices that we make every day. And so part of my my road to what I consider success for myself in this stage of life is really being consistent with my decisions, specifically around like all the things that feed into health and well-being, what I eat, how I move my body, if I take time to just, whether it's meditation or just quiet time, just time to have fun, time with my family. Those types of things are just, they're consistent and non-negotiable. And sometimes that can be a challenge, if especially if somebody in your life doesn't understand it. And man, that just takes me kind of right back to bodybuilding. Yes, and everyone should have plans in place and what their day is going to look like and their week is going to look like. Otherwise, you end up being the dead fish that goes with the flow, right? You need to decide where you're headed and how to get there. But it sometimes when you're like that, it becomes difficult for people around you to understand. And so, one of the biggest ones I think is that I go to bed early. And for whatever reason, that seems to be some sort of taboo. Like it's not socially acceptable to go to bed early. Well, what is early anyway? That's subjective, right? But I go to bed early because I get up early. Most people I know don't get up at 3:30 in the morning. I get up at 3:30 in the morning. That's my choice. I like that. I like it to be quiet in the morning. I don't want everyone else up. Actually, I like that not everyone gets up at 3:30. It's quiet. Nobody needs anything. That's probably comes from having raised 5 kids as well. Like you just like to be up before they are. And sometimes you have these little kids that are also morning people, or they just aren't good sleepers, whatever. And they're up early. So you're like, well, let me just push that a little bit earlier and a little bit earlier. But I feel like I have my best hours and most productive hours first thing in the morning from, 6 or at 3:30 to, roughly about 7:30 is it's the golden hours for me. I can get so much done, and I feel like I got, another half a day. Whereas somebody that gets up and just goes straight to work, man, you missed all that. I feel bad for people that miss all that. You probably don't feel bad. You probably like getting up at 7 or whatever, and that's fine. And there are night owls too, where you get all of that time later in the evening. I myself cannot concentrate later in the evening, although maybe it's hypothyroidism. I don't know. So anyway, going to bed early is one of them that seems to cause a lot of discussion. It never stops. Actually, it never stops. Somebody always has something to say about that. And my husband and I, in the past year started bringing our food places because we're on really specific diets. And when you're trying to attain a goal, like such as I am, which is, competing probably early next year at some point, and with the decision is made for me, I have my macros and everything, almost every meal laid out before the day starts, just to take that decision fatigue off my plate and know that I'm eating healthy and I'm meeting the requirements for that day for myself without even really having to think about it is just so helpful. I can't tell you, I'm sure you've experienced this too. No one wants to ask what's for dinner every night. It's exhausting. Well, okay, what's for dinner? What are we making for dinner? What are we going to eat for dinner? Are we going to order out? Are we going to eat in? Do we have food? Do we not have food? Do we need to go to the grocery store? Nobody wants to do that. And that can be done, it doesn't have to be as extreme, although I don't think it's extreme, but probably most people think it's extreme as the way we do it, where we pretty much eat the exact same thing every night, because we know it gets all of the, macros that we need and a variety of fruits and vegetables. You can just, plan your meals out. Fine. I mean, that's even helpful. And then you don't have to think about it either. But anything that you can take off your plate as a decision that needs to be made each day is just man, it's a game changer. So that's one of them. But it also weirds people out when we show up with our food. I don't care. I just know that it's going to get me where I want to go. And eating the same thing and bringing the food to the event can be weird to you, and that's fine. And there's somebody's going to say something about it, and that's fine. Am I going to get to my goal? 100%. So you can think it's weird and whatever. And I mean, honestly, I've been plant-based for over 30 years, and that conversation never stops either. And it doesn't matter. It's been people in my life that have not the one that birthed me, but the one that helped. Um, it never stops. It never seems to be a surprise that I don't eat meat. It never seems to not be funny. The start of a joke. How are you alive? Blah, blah, blah. Need to put some meat on your bones. That, the old, it doesn't stop. Even though I've now raised 5 children on a vegan / plant-based diet, and they're all thriving and doing well. So anyway, I don't know. I just went off on that rant, but it's just one of those things that's interesting that honestly, of course, it's the people that are closest to you that typically, have the issues with what you're doing. It's not, sometimes it's issues, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just like, okay, weird. And they don't say anything. And then sometimes they say things. And, of course it's people close to you, because who else are you having long conversations about and or with, and they see the ebbs and flows and of what you're doing. But so anyway, all of those, when you plan your life out like that, of course, people are they're going to look and wonder what you're doing and why you're doing it. And, whatever. And sometimes you have to answer, sometimes you don't. I remember when I originally started looking into this, I watched a video of a woman in her 70s who had started bodybuilding, I think like in her 60s, I don't remember. And it was super motivating and encouraging to me, that there were people out there doing that, and knowing full well that it's not the norm. But, their conversation on this podcast was basically like, how does family, think about what you're doing? And I think they were specifically talking about food. And the woman said, well, look, I go to these events, oftentimes it's maybe like a birthday party of one of my grandchildren or whatever. And, the grandkids are like, grandma brings her own food. They don't even think about it. It's just what grandma does, and it's fine. And so I think a lot of times you end up sort of normalizing that, and people just leave you alone about it. But it can definitely get old. And I was thinking too, along those lines, kind of got off subject here a little bit, but that it does seem to be like sometimes family, the closest ones to you, are the ones that have the hardest time when you're making some sort of, maybe it's an identity shift or something. I don't know what it is, but I do think that sometimes family wants to put you in a little bit of a box. They're like, well, this is how this person is, because I've known them since they were a child, or maybe I birthed them, whatever. And so they're not this, and now they're just trying to be this, but that's not really who they are. What are they doing? But I feel like almost anyone can do that to you, not necessarily just family, but I feel like family sometimes has the hardest time allowing you to do that in their minds. And so it's funny because I feel that you get more support sometimes from, total strangers than your family and friends who you've known for years. And I don't know if it's just I don't know what it is, just a judgment thing, or it's really hard for people to have constructed this box that they put you in, and now they've got to reconstruct it, and then they're having a hard time with that. Whereas if, it's strangers or people that just don't know you very well, you don't really have a solid box that they put you in yet, or they just can't because they don't know enough about you. And so you get to create whatever it is. So anyway, it's a whole thing. And and specifically with things like bodybuilding, there comes a lot of opinions and judgment, which is also funny. And whatever, it just speaks to how set we get in our thoughts and our ways and our opinions about things. But anyway, so all that to say, wild week, not wild, relaxing, but wild in the sense that I, figured out I had hypothyroidism, got on medication all within a week, which was great. But just another unexpected thing, which is why systems and keeping everything as consistent as you can is always very helpful. Then when you have one of these rando things, it's okay. Like you still, just chug along at this set pace that you have, knowing what to expect each day. And then, you get the curveball and it's not that big of a deal. But I don't have any check-in pictures. I'll be doing that tomorrow. My normal day to do that is on a Sunday, and I'm happy to actually be back to some sense of normalcy. But anyway, here's my call to action. Get a plan in place, know what your tomorrow is going to look like, and think about what you will do if it doesn't go as planned. Um, and know that the next day will probably be better, but also that you're resourceful and resilient and you'll figure it out. And I mean, I've had such a unexpected summer, unexpected 2026, and I just keep bouncing back. And I know that that's there for everybody. That's there for everybody. All right, that's it.